Well, so I think stepping back, one of my goals in being a part of city council is I want to, and we can talk about, what we were able to do over the last year. But one of the things, like, to me, success looks like we need to get more people. When more people are engaged in the public policy process, I think everyone is better off.
How
Because
do you do that? How do you get
what
people more
so
engaged?
one of the things that we're working on is this program called Leadership Laguna that was actually founded by Ann Johnson, who recently passed away. She was my campaign chairwoman. She was a longtime planning commissioner,
Hmm.
and she founded it. And the idea was to get younger people involved in learning about how city government works, where we bring in each department head. And actually Newport has a program like this that's very successful. Right now they have a city council where I think 6 out of the 7 of them are like in their 40s and early 50s
Hmm.
because they all went through this program. Actually, it was called the Newport Beach Leadership Foundation or something like that.
Are any of the city council members, planning commissioners, or design review, are they required to go through any type of program
That's
or
actually something
training?
that I've been. There's this league. So when I got elected, Mark Orgel and I went to the League of California Cities Training Academy.
And how was that?
It was a fascinating experience because you get to talk to other. You learn about. There's all these different sessions on how to be a council member, how to follow the Brown Act, how to deal with like budgeting, how to do different things,
Were
which
you
is.
required or did you
No, you
just
were not
want?
required. So I chose to go because,
Oh,
and
good.
I go to the League of Cities every year, and I also go to
It
water
was just you and
conferences.
Mark that went?
Yeah, because
Did Hallie go with you guys?
she went the next when she was elected,
Okay.
and I like to go to those conferences for two reasons. One, I learn new things by hearing about presentations on best practices, but the probably more importantly is I become friends with and talk to other council members from across the state of California. Right. So like there's Haylin Conrad. She was recently elected in Malibu. She came down to Laguna and I gave her a tour of what we're doing with our trolley system. And then I'm going to go up there at some point. And then also the mayor of Santa Monica, Lana Negretti. She couldn't come because it was in the aftermath of there was something happening in Santa Monica. But like we share
And is that
ideas.
something that you do every year to like keep up to date,
Correct.
refresh? Okay.
And I think it's just a cool opportunity because we don't have all the answers in Laguna, nor should we. But there's other we can just when things are making sense in other cities, let's just copy them.
And that's why I'm saying, why not copy the efficiency
So
ordinance to what other
yeah,
beach cities are doing?
and so yeah, that's I hear what you're saying, and and that's what the objective standards is looking at what other cities are doing. But anyway, we'll switch back to this. So there's a planning commission training academy coming up that's actually going to be in Anaheim, and I'm hoping that our planning commissioners and design review go to it because there are so many new.
Can you make it a requirement?
I don't know that we can make it a requirement, but I'm hoping that they would go and then we can, because I don't know why anyone who's on a board like that wouldn't want to have that
That's
kind
what
of
I'm saying.
training.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm in a position, whether it's professional, public service, I like to have all the training and all. I like to know what I'm doing when I go into a role.
Well, one would think, right?
Yeah. So I think training is important, especially in the context of all these state laws that create a lot of legal risk for the city if we don't follow the
Does
rules.
the city of Laguna Beach do any internal training for anyone?
We do have like a and commissioners training, and we also, I think, are having now. We're going to have a study session at some point if we haven't already had it, where the planning commissioners and design review and council we're going to get an update on all the new state laws coming down related to housing
Okay.
issues to make sure that everyone is up to speed and on that. And one of the things, and we can kind of maybe this can segue into your legal. I know you at the beginning you mentioned the
Mm-hmm.
legal risks and all that
Mm-hmm.
about lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
One of the moves that I think is a really big push towards actually efficiency is we brought recently our city attorney in-house. So
Mm-hmm.
previously we were contracting with Best and Krieger,
Mm-hmm.
and Megan Garibaldi was our city attorney after Phil Kahn,
Yeah,
who you worked with Phil
sure
closely.
did. Yeah.
And what we realized was that by bringing our city attorney's office in-house, we're saving money immediately because when you're paying the hourly rates to BBK, you have to pay all the overhead, right? You have to pay like the partners and people who aren't even involved in Laguna. And
You're saying the hourly rate is higher.
when you're paying a contract
Yeah.
firm, correct? And then, but when you bring it in-house, and there's also sort of, I would argue, and I'm not saying that there's anything nefarious going on, but when you have a contracted firm, a firm makes money from litigation.
Of course.
Right. So when you have an in-house city attorney, was really cool about that. And Megan Garibaldi has been excellent and really has brought a lot of just her and her team have been great because what they're all about is getting in on the front end of how do we mitigate our liability? Like how do we look at our sidewalks and figure out how can we reduce future lawsuits
You should look
related
at
to
the
those?
sidewalk here.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll handle that.
Yeah.
How can we, design our ordinances in a way where they're legal and that so by spending the money and having it embedded in our processes, I actually think it's a win for it. It
Well,
objectively
because
is a win.
otherwise their incentive
Yeah.
is to go to trial because they actually get
Correct.
to make more
And they
money.
have to be dealing with other cities too. They're
Right.
representing other cities. So here, they're every day like have offices at City Hall. Some people don't like it because you have to pay for the benefits and everything. We did the financial analysis. We save money on that, but I think we're going to save more money on mitigating legal liability. So I think that's actually a way to mitigate our legal risks and ultimately save taxpayers money.
Going back
Okay.
to the legal system,
Yeah.
bringing the attorneys in house, you believe will save the city money.
Yes.
And so currently there's three in-house attorneys,
Yep.
one paralegal. What happens if you go to litigation? Are they representing the city or are you bringing in the third party team?
It depends on the
Oh,
circumstances.
so they can go to trial for you if it's
Yeah,
something
in certain,
small
but the
and
goal is how do we not go to trial? Like how do we minimize
well,
our
that's what
legal
I would.
budget?
Okay, so that's where I was going with this.
Yes.
With only a 22,000 population, give or take, right? Why do we need three in-house attorneys and one paralegal?
So I think one of the things that we had before, so prior to Megan and her team and BBK coming in, we did not have city attorneys at Planning Commission or Design Review Board.
You did not.
No, which is a
Okay.
highly unusual thing to not have a city attorney at Planning Commission. So like that Kate, I think that the Pearl Street case,
Yeah.
Phil was at that meeting.
Yes, he was.
But that was an unusual thing because typically the Design Review Board and Planning Commission basically had to make these decisions without any attorneys there. I think we would all agree it's good to have an attorney
I would
when
agree.
you have,
But
subjective decisions.
you wouldn't really need an attorney if everything was objective.
Well, yeah, that's a different, but
No, but you understand what I'm
no, I see
saying?
what you're
Like,
saying. If there wasn't a meeting,
well, but on top of which, your firepower doesn't need to be that strong
yeah,
if you have objective
yeah,
criterias, right? It would be very easy for the different city council, design review, and planning commission to make decisions
yeah,
if everything was objective. And even better, if the efficiency ordinance was in place to where it doesn't even need to go to them unless it's a variance.
yeah,
And then maybe you bring in legal just to make sure that the variance is a good idea to
totally,
either approve or deny.
yeah.
But with objective criteria, do you think that you need so much
No, you
firepower?
wouldn't.
Okay, so
So yeah, but that goes back to why we're doing the objective design standards.
well, but most of the homes that are, going through the system is not going to fit that
No, I know, but that's
box
phase
inside the
two is the
box.
objective design standards.
Hmm.
Anyway, okay, we're
Okay.
so,
So,
but I would say also, I don't know that population is the best metric to think about a lot of these things. So, for example, Dana
you
Point,
don't think population should dictate how much money is on the payroll for the city?
I think it should. So, and I'll explain the way I see it. So, I
Okay.
think it should to some extent, but it's also like Dana Point does not have, they contract for fire services. They're part of the Orange County Fire Authority.
Okay.
They contract for sheriff services.
Mhm.
They don't have all the beaches because the county is involved with the harbor and some of the beaches there.
Okay.
I think the state is Doheny Beach, right? So we are like a full service city. Like we have everything, right? And
You're saying everything is in house.
everything is in house in Laguna.
And do you think that's a good or a bad thing?
I
I
think
don't know enough. I want
I
to.
think it depends. So, for example, like I think it's very important that we have our own police and fire department. I think that does make us safer because
Mhm.
we don't have to be going to the sheriff right when we want
Okay.
something. We go to our police
And do
chief
you
who's
think we
hired
have
by
enough police officers on duty?
I think we can always use more police officers. One of the things
I
that
would
I'm really
agree.
proud of is when I joined the council, we had a huge issue where because it was sort of in the context of like the defund the police movement where people were really deterred from going into law enforcement, which is a huge problem because we need police officers. And every other city in Orange County was raising their salaries, and so what the first vote that I made was actually in contract negotiations where we gave an 18% raise I think over 3 years to our police officers, and we had a lot of vacancies at the time. We've been able to fill all those vacancies as a result of that raise to have the competitive salaries. And this year it was just based on the data from the Department of Justice, we are the safest coastal city in Orange County based on violent crime data. We're number 2 for property crimes behind Dana Point.
Mhm.
So I think we are doing a good job there. I think we also need to think about technology when it comes to
Mhm.
law enforcement. One of the really successful things that we've done is we have automated license plate readers. So we have throughways in and out of town, and it really deters people from doing those types of grand theft like retail robberies that you see in other cities
Mhm.
because we're able to track the we can look at the license plates, and that allows our law is a force multiplier. We also have to look at like drones as first responders. That's the new where law
Is that
enforcement is
new?
going. We haven't done it yet, but
Okay.
Newport's doing it right now. And so we need to have ultimately a real-time crime center where you have cameras and you're able to basically have drones that can respond quickly, and then that gives the officers, eyes on the ground of the situation.
That's great because we had an incident. We were home
Okay.
and someone tried to break in while we were
Really?
home. And I will say the police force did an incredible
They
job.
are amazing.
Amazing. I could not believe A, the response time,
Yep.
B, the protocol that they went through to make sure my family was safe.
Yep.
I will say it was very scary,
Yeah.
but it was I would say remarkable. I thought this is such a small town, like,
Yep.
you know, but what I was disappointed in was the person got away.
Oh, really?
And, we were asking for cameras up and down the street and
Yeah.
things like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, with the amount of response time, the amount of people that showed
Yeah.
up, the way they handled the situation, how did this person get away? But I will say that I was super impressed. I feel very safe in Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
that's
it's
our
remarkable.
main job is
Yeah,
safety, right?
is
If you're not
safety.
safe, then everything else doesn't matter.
And then what about the amount of police force? Do you feel like it should be increased or do you think we're at a good number now? Because the
I
number that they told me, which I don't want to say on air, of how many police officers are on duty, I think that there is room for improvement there.
I think there is. I think that we should always like we have to look in the context of all of our priorities and the budget and everything. And so
Right.
it's like I'm always going to want more police officers,
But I
right?
think
But we
that
have
should
to
be a
make
priority. Fire and police should
well,
be a
and I think it
priority.
has been when you look at our budget and how but I think we also need to be looking at like technology and how that can be a force
Mm-hmm.
multiplier. So
Mm-hmm.
I would defer to like our police chief about what the right way to deploy, but I think we always should be figuring out how we can put more money into public safety and making this where like you don't want to do any crimes in Laguna Beach because you are going to
You're
be
not going to get
caught.
away with
You're not
it.
going to get away with it. That's
Yeah.
how you deter crime,
Right.
and that's how we make this like the safest place that you could imagine, right? And so I think we need to make those investments. The park rangers program's been really good too because they're a lot cheaper than police officers,
Mm-hmm.
but they've been able to help with like dealing with the quality of life issues that we're seeing from beach impacts.
Okay.
So yeah, we have to continue making those investments.
Is it true that the police department wants to bring on 2 horses? And what would that be for?
I think that is that's like the foundation that's involved, and I think that horses are involved with like during protests, I believe, or something. I don't have all the facts, but that's not wouldn't be city funded. That would be funded by the police foundation.
Okay. I heard that and I was like, well, where are they gonna put them? Do they know how expensive
Yeah,
this is gonna be?
I
Who
don't
who
know.
has the
Maybe
training
you
for
can get
that?
involved in advising on that because you're
No, I do not have good luck with horses. It's the last thing you
okay.
want me to do.
Okay,
Okay. Hard question.
go ahead.
I really was excited that your fellow council members elected you as mayor. And I
Oh,
do think that you did a great job.
thank you.
I am disappointed that you're no longer mayor. I don't like how the mayor is elected between the council members. It's like a rock, paper, scissors, and then, maybe you guys do a couple shots and high five each other. Um, I think that you got a lot done in one year,
Yeah.
but I think a lot more could be done, especially if you're the one that stays in that position and continues for as long as you possibly can. Or I think it should be an elected position. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the mayor in Laguna Beach is like the first among equals. We all have the same power as council members, where really the mayor's role is more of a ceremonial figure, and you're
But do
leading the
you think it
meetings.
should be a ceremonial figure? I do
Well,
not.
I think it's I mean, I feel like it's important to have unity on the council about who the mayor is, because if you have a mayor, for example, that's like incompatible with the priorities of the council, that would create a lot of
But
unnecessary
it's also checks
friction.
and balances. Like my company has checks and
That's a good
balances
point.
for a reason.
I think that what we have now is we have like 5 council members, all of whom could be mayor, and that's a really good thing. And having the
What
mayor,
are the qualifications of the people that you think it's a good thing that they all should be elected mayor? Other
I
than they were
think,
elected as a city council
I
member.
think that's the first thing is elected by the people who are going to be should be a council member, and then number two,
What about checks and balances
being able
though?
to run a meeting properly, like being able to make sure that we're following all the rules when we're running our meetings, being a good communicator to the city about what's going on,
Mhm.
talking. And I think that's one of the main, like during the fire, for example, the Rancho fire, people were thanking me. I didn't put out the fire, right? But my job was to be the communicator,
You
right?
did a great job.
Was to figure out how do we
Yep.
get as much information that we're allowed to give out that's accurate, right? Because you never want to give out bad
No.
information, right? And then to the public so that they can make life and death decisions, right? Because people were
But
so scared in a fire. So that I think being a good communicator, being able to run a meeting, I think having relationships outside of the county. So, and that's what's good about our system with the mayor pro tem is like Mark Orgill. When I was, the mayor, there were things I couldn't go to. Mark would go, and so he has those relationships with like our county supervisor, with our assembly members, our state senators. That's an important thing. So I think having a mayor pro tem, that sort of helps train you to become the
The next
mayor.
mayor. Yeah.
And I also think, I mean, what's really interesting about being mayor that I didn't really appreciate was how much more time it takes than being a council member. Like I have a full-time day job.
Of course it does.
So in a
So
way, it's kind of a
again, don't
nice
you
thing
think it
to,
should be an elected position where
yeah,
someone can dedicate their time to being the mayor and have a checks and balances? Because if the mayor is a city council member, there really is no checks and balances there. It's, a bunch of friends that are electing each other to take a position, which in my opinion, the mayor is an important position.
it is an important position. I think that having I'm not really supportive of like an automatic rotation. Like I think there's people who were not capable of being mayor in the past, right? And so that's why the council appoints the mayor. And again, I think like I'm kind of happy that it's nice to not be in that role right now, just from a timing perspective. But I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish over the last year in terms of,
So you do agree it should be an elected
no,
position
I
and
don't,
not passed around like
I,
a name tag.
I don't know that I'd go that far.
Okay, so how was the mayor elected
I was
for this
appointed.
round? Uh-huh.
Mark was the mayor pro tem, and so he was in line to be the mayor, just like I was the mayor pro tem for Sioux, and so I
I
was
know,
in line.
but at some point someone elects that person and then you end up being mayor. So how do you guys say among yourselves, other than you're a city council member and someday
Yeah,
you get to be pro tem and then you also get the title of mayor?
I
I
think
don't think everyone is qualified.
I think the assumption is that if you're a council member, you're elected by the people. That as long as you're qualified to be the mayor, you should be in line to be the mayor.
And so do you disagree with me that the mayor should be an elected position?
I think the current system works for now. I think if we a lot of cities who have to go into district elections because they're sued from the California Voting Rights Act, like San Clemente just got sued, so now they have to get elected by districts, right? Which I wouldn't want in Laguna because I think we're small enough that I don't think it makes sense to have. I like having council members who look at the bigger picture as opposed to like elected by like one neighborhood and then they're just thinking about that neighborhood. In
Well,
those
Laguna is
situ-
small enough where it could be one mayor that oversees all of Laguna.
Yeah,
It's only 22,000
but
people.
a lot of cities they go to an elected mayor when they're forced into district elections, right? Where the four council members are elected by district and you have a mayor at large.
Mhm.
If we had to go to districts, maybe that would make sense. But otherwise, I think the system works as it is now because ultimately we have a city manager form of government, and so you don't.
But the city manager is elected by the city council.
Yeah,
So again, where is that accountability? Where is that
it's with the
transparency? Where is that
voters.
checks and
I think
balances?
the voters in electing us as city council members. Where if we're
Right, but the term is 4 years, right?
yeah,
So you can't make changes until
well,
the next election. And
but
so
you
for four
can.
years,
There's gonna be three seats up. The council could totally. We could all three of us, Bob or Sue, Mark, and I are all up for reelection. So you
are
could.
all three of you going to rerun?
I don't know that I'm gonna run.
Hmm.
I've already filed my papers to run for one more term,
Hmm.
and I'm hopeful that Sue and Mark run as well. I don't know that they've decided.
I'm hopeful for change.
Okay.
So hopefully there'll be some new candidates coming forward and
Okay.
that we can get some new ideas in there. Also want to talk about payroll and staffing.
Okay. Yeah.
So I collected some stats from the Government Compensation of California. Is
Okay.
that official?
Looks official. Yep.
Okay. So in 2021, the payroll was 36 million and change. And there was 554 city employees,
Hmm.
right? So now we fast forward to 2024 and it's 755 employees
Yeah, it's a lot.
and 51 million in wages,
Yeah.
but yet there's no efficiencies.
So one of the reasons for that increase was we took over the South Laguna beaches from the county, and so that led to a lot of part-time lifeguards that were hired as a result of that.
That was only 623,000. Go to the last page. See it? Or it says South Laguna. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Every once in a while, I'm prepared.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, I can understand where you're going with
Yeah.
it, but that is a
No, and I'm not
big
trying to
jump in
justify. I'm just
payroll.
trying to. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think
And I
that's.
didn't prepare you. So everyone knows I didn't prepare you
Yeah.
for any of this. I'm
Yeah.
just handing you data right
So
now. You weren't able to back check me. You weren't able
yeah.
to do anything. But I just found this interesting and I wanted to bring it to your attention because we're talking about efficiency, right?
Yes.
We're adding payroll,
Yeah.
we're adding employees. There's no efficiencies
I
there.
agree.
And we're talking about an efficiency ordinance and we're doing first step.
Yeah.
I would expect that with this increased payroll, we're already kind of heading towards efficiency and we're not going to do it in a two-part
Yeah. So
process.
what I would step back and say that I think that adding, so for example, the legal department, I think.
But that's not included in this
No,
number.
I know, but I'm just like stepping back about. I think adding employees there actually will lead to more efficiency. But I think your overall point is one that I don't disagree with. That
Right.
we need to be really smart about how we live at. AI is like a game changer,
It
right?
is.
I mean,
We all use it.
you think about the plan check process.
Mhm.
That is the perfect use case for AI. I've been talking to this company called Archistar that is involved in. It's an Australia-based company, which is I think part of their problem because they don't understand the nuances of California
Yeah.
zoning, which is like nobody can really get. It's
Especially
crazy.
Laguna Beach.
But I've been meeting with them. They're involved in the Los Angeles recovery, and so I think like that is a. When you think about the plan check process, there are very few use cases that are more perfect for AI than that because it's just so
Agree.
tedious, right?
Agree.
So we really need to figure out how to have efficiency. You also have to pay people. I mean, it's a competitive labor environment, so we have to pay our employees. We want the best and the brightest to work in Laguna Beach. I think we all
I
agree with that.
agree,
And so,
but the amount of payroll that we're spending and the
yeah,
amount of city employees is astonishing.
it is. Yeah. So I think it's something that we want to be. And the city manager is very aware of this. We brought him in from, he was the city manager of Newport Beach. Newport Beach is a very efficiently run city. I think we all would agree with that. And that was part of why we brought him in, is because he understands how to run a really world-class customer service oriented
I'm glad
organization.
you said that because I feel like when I first moved here, it was more customer orientated.
Okay.
And now it's shorter hours, closed on Fridays,
Every other Friday.
every other Friday, excuse me. But yet we have 755 employees. We have $51 million in payroll. Why have those hours been shortened and why are we closed every other Friday? That to me doesn't kind of line up
Yeah.
with the payroll and the amount of people.
The every other Friday is a complicated one because like every city that I work with in other cities, they're closed on Fridays or every other Friday. The every other Friday kind of bothers me too because then I'm always like figuring out, is it the Friday where we're closed if I
It's a
want to call
pain.
someone?
It
So
is a pain.
I hear that. And
But can I ask you a question? You have a Monday through Friday job,
yeah.
right? Do you get
Well,
every
Monday through Sunday basically.
okay, but in Monday through Friday life,
Yes.
okay? Do you get every other Friday off?
No.
Okay.
I work on the weekends too.
Okay. Thank you. Do you get shortened business hours?
Well, my company is very, so like if I have to leave early for a council meeting,
Okay, but other than
no, I
that,
don't get shortened
in
business
the
hours.
real world,
No. Yeah.
people work their Monday through Friday job 9 to 5. I mean, they
In
work 8
general,
hours
yeah.
in general. I'm making a general statement.
Yeah.
And they're also not closed every other Friday.
Yeah.
Why does Laguna Beach extend these benefits with this high payroll here?
I think that part of it is just the context of if we were to get rid of, if let's say we said we're working every Friday, I think
People would quit and our payroll would go down.
I think people would quit, and then you wouldn't get the best and the brightest to want to work in
I
Laguna
disagree
Beach.
with you.
Okay.
My company is filled with the best and the
But you're thinking of the
brightest.
private sector. I think the public sector is different, in that you're.
Are there other beach cities that are closed every other Friday that I don't know
Yeah,
of?
I think
Who is it?
most. I don't know if Newport is, but I think most cities.
But you just said Newport is one of the most efficient.
Yeah.
So why aren't they closed every
When
other
you
Friday?
give a benefit, it's hard to take it back.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
COVID, everyone got to go work from home, right?
Yeah, and we're back in the office. That was a big problem that we had, is because I think work
I
from
heard
home.
some of the people are not back in office full time. Is that not true?
I don't. My understanding is that we're in general, and I think that work from home makes sense. Where it's like, let's say that you have a doctor's appointment in the morning, and
Well,
then
that's what you get vacation or sick time for.
well, no, like so. Let's say I have a doctor's appointment at 11 o'clock. What's the problem with me working from home in that morning and then going into the office as opposed to driving into, like, I think there's situations where it makes sense that you do one, a couple things work from
So
home.
there are studies that show that the productivity levels are down when you
No, I
work
know,
from
but I'm
home.
talking about one offs as opposed to policy. I agree with you. I think work from home does not work for most
Are there,
environments.
and so are there employees from the 755 that still have that flexibility of working from
I,
home? I think the answer is yes.
I I think that might be, but I think in general the practice is people are back in the office.
Okay, so going
Especially for
back
like
to,
planning, it's very hard to do that job from home, in my
well,
opinion.
I will say I had a planner that had a flexible schedule during one of my projects and they got to work from
Was that
home.
a long time? Was that recent or?
I would say it was during my coast-in days, so
Oh yeah, that was,
a while ago.
yeah,
But still, I mean, it was very frustrating
yeah.
and it was really hard to get anything done.
Because you want to be able to pick up the phone, or even go in person, and
Right.
there's nothing like an
And
in-person
so,
meeting.
do you think that the department could be more efficient if we
100%.
expanded the hours and we were open on Fridays? Because I have to tell you, people also work, right? So you're talking about the efficiency
Yeah,
ordinance and you're talking about the taxpayers not having to hire the architects or what did you call them? The spinners? The spinners,
yeah, you
right?
like that. That's what Peter called them.
The spinners. Okay. So, you know, if the city is closing early and they're closed every other Friday and I'm an average working person,
Yeah.
how does that work for me? How is
Well,
that efficient?
it's one of the things. Isn't it interesting how like the DMV is only open on like the hours during the week when we're all work. So in
Well,
general,
but thankfully you don't have to go to the DMV all the time, right? If
I
you're
know, but
doing
I
business
still
in
need to get my real
Laguna,
ID, and I haven't had a chance to do it because the hour.
but if you're
But
doing business in
I
Laguna
I
and
agree with you. I think that's what I'm trying to say with the DMV examples. I think that we should figure out ways to have hours that make sense for working people. I don't know that the Friday thing. I think that's probably not going to happen. But I think in general we
but
need,
why? Why do you think it's important for them to have every other Friday off? It really
because
hinders.
it but that's based on the mark. So like when you're talking about the private sector, that's not the pool of talent that we're looking at. We're looking at people who are already working in government. And I actually think I'm very interested in the idea of like, why can't we hire people from the private sector who spend 5 years working in government and go back to their private sector job? I think there'd be a lot of value added from that, actually.
There could be, yeah.
um but so I think that we need to figure out how to have more efficiencies, how to ensure that we're paying competitive wages to.
But it sounds like we are paying competitive wages because we've increased payroll, correct?
We've increased the number of employees. Yeah.
And payroll though, right? People are getting raises.
Yeah, they are.
They are getting raises. So my point is private or public, why not why compare yourselves to other cities? If Laguna is trying to make the system better, change needs to happen and what's happening doesn't work. Limited hours doesn't work. Being closed every other Friday doesn't work. Having flexibility working from home, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because if it was working, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about all of these issues.
It's something that I think about because one of the big priorities that I've had is infrastructure, where we think that's what we were able to. We got a water deal negotiated with Newport Beach this year,
Congratulations
where
on
we're
that.
going to be able to go from 100% imported water to local water reliability. But we have so much, like we're a 100-year-old city. Our sewer system we have to put up more than $100 million into our sewer system because there's
I'm not
been no
surprised.
investments,
Right.
and that's money that we have to spend. Like you think
Mm-hmm.
about fire safety, undergrounding the utility lines. That's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's in my view, it's the question of not if but when the next wildfire happens. And so
Are you ready? Yeah.
we need to mitigate that. So money that we're spending on our payroll is money that we cannot be putting into infrastructure. And so that's why it's very important that we create efficiencies in the city manager. Is so that's something that
But
when
when you're adding employees and you're adding payroll,
yeah,
does that not get voted on by council?
it does.
Okay. So how are we approving all of that
Yeah.
and not diving into the efficiencies? And have we done any internal audits of the different departments?
That's one of the things that I've championed is before I worked for the city. When I graduated college, I worked for the county. I worked for Supervisor Foley, and the county has this department called the Performance Audit Division, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved it because what I would do is every year they would do like 3 performance audits to different departments, and then I'd read all those audits, and then we'd ask questions to each of those departments. Okay, how are you complying with this? Because what's good about a performance audit is the goal is not to be critical. The goal is just to look at
Efficiency.
efficiencies. What are the
Yeah.
best practices? What are the metrics that you're using? And so one of the things that I prioritize as a council member is now our budgets have metrics, right? What does success look like? In the planning department,
But we're increasing wages.
yeah,
So 2021, 36 million, 2022, 39 million, 2023, 46 million and change, obviously, right?
yeah.
And then 2024, 51 million. 2025, what's that going to look like? We just added an entire legal team plus who else knows what you guys added? It's not out yet.
Well, no, the budget's out.
But this, like the actual
on this, but we
compensation,
could
so
pull
that we,
that. But yeah,
yeah.
you're right. It's not like we're trying to hide that number. It's
I'm
out
not
there.
saying you're hiding it.
Yeah.
It's just not
No, I hear what you're
available
saying.
now for
And
comparison. And the legal is not in this number.
yeah,
I'm assuming they didn't come work for free.
no,
No.
So I think I think we need to do more about efficiency.
Yeah. And what about decreasing payroll?
Well, I think the key would be to reduce the increases.
And then what about internal audits?
I think that we need a performance auditing division.
When was the last time they did one?
We did a performance audit actually of our investments, and what we found was that having our internal city treasurer, the way that she was managed, she just didn't have the resources. So now we brought an outsourced firm, and we're actually going to be able to really significantly, without creating safety risks. You, of course, you want to protect the safety of the dollars,
Right.
but just being able to, we have now a team at Meter, the firm that we contracted with, which is what Newport does, where we're actually going to be able to get higher yields with the same safety.
Which is great.
That's an example of bringing in an outside,
But when was the last time we audited any of the departments that are down there?
Well, that's what I have something that I would like to do, so it's a priority.
But do you know when the last time it was audited? Or has it not ever been audited in the last 10 years?
Well, we've had,
because how do you make decisions on increasing employees increasing wages without
assessment.
Well, even internal assessment, even private sector or public sector, you really don't add employees without an internal audit saying, okay, this department is deficient. We need to add X, Y, Z, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
You just don't add bodies and payroll just in hopes that something's going to work out.
I agree with you.
I know, but it happened.
Yeah.
So how is it getting approved at the city council level? There has to be metrics. Someone saying we're increasing X amount of employees.
Yeah,
we're increasing X amount.
You could actually make the case for adding, like the city attorney argument. I think I made the argument that you're adding those employees, you're actually creating more efficiencies. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my argument. But what you're saying is we need to do that with everything.
Right. I mean, it's very easy to just add to the budget, but not look and say, where
Step
can
back.
Yeah. And again, I think stepping back and looking at the hours of operation, and if people are going to quit, well, maybe it's because they've been coasting and they don't want to work. And I'm sorry, public or private sector, you get paid to do a job.
I agree.
Come do your job.
No, and I think it's very important that, when I worked in the public sector, I had to work actually 7 days a week because I'd have to do all these events on the weekends. But I think that we want the best and the brightest to go into government. And there's no reason why we should have a lower standard.
Right. And I think that, saying that the best and the brightest may leave because they don't get every other Friday off, I think contradicts that statement. Or saying, let's have 8 hours, 10 hours of service where maybe someone comes, maybe it opens earlier.
Well, they do open earlier because they start at 7:30.
And then what time are they closing?
I think 5:30.
Okay, so there's there are some shifts in there, so you can stay open longer.
They're still doing
That's
a 40-hour work week. It's just their spacing. I don't know if I could start work at 7. That's kind of brutal to leave your house at 6:30.
Well, I get up at 4:30 every morning.
Well, I work out in the morning, so that's why I 8 a.m. is when I get into the office.
I mean, that's not bad.
No.
But I do think that downtown needs to have more accessible hours, and I do think that you guys have gone away from the customer service aspect of we're here to help Laguna Beach residents. And so maybe getting back to that would be nice.
Well, yeah.
I mean, and the payroll to me is astonishing. Did you know it was that high?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the expansion of the legal team. And you're saying that you think it's a good thing.
Yes.
I don't think I completely disagree with you.
Okay.
What I disagree with is the amount of legal that the city of Laguna Beach needs to have for 22,000 people. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I think the point you've been making this whole time, which I don't disagree with, is that we have had kind of a lack, for decades, we've been kind of ignoring a lot of these legal issues.
Yeah.
So I think I would argue that we need this team to really get involved and unpack all those legal issues and figure out how we actually have long-term solutions.
And do you think the long-term solution is still going to be
objective
a
standards.
team? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But do you think it would be a team of 4? Because if you can move to objective standards, you don't need a team of 4, which then would also decrease payroll.
That's a good question. I really feel like it's going to take at least 5 years to work through all these long-term issues that have been neglected for a long time. Just even simple things like our contracts policies, the way we do indemnification, the way we do risk mitigation, and our insurance for different things, like very technical issues
Mhm.
that have been neglected. I really think we need at least 5 years to be able to work through all those issues. And what it's going to create is a system where the taxpayers are much better off than before.
And you feel
So
like this legal team can help
I feel very
navigate
confident
that?
that, and I know them well. They're like they go above and beyond in terms of like caring for the city and actually protecting its legal interests.
Mhm.
And so I actually think that I think it's the best investment that we've made as a city.
And I know that you can't talk about current litigation, but with the idea of there is current litigation and more litigation coming, when you go to litigate, is that in-house team on the bigger litigations, not a trip and fall on the, sidewalk, um, are they bringing in the
Yeah,
outside
I
team?
think it depends on the set of circumstances.
Okay.
And what's cool about having an in-house team is that you're not wedded to one law firm, right? So when you have BBK as your city attorney, they're going to bring BBK in
Mhm.
on every case, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But maybe they're not the best person for a certain case, or we can get a better rate on it, and so that allows for flexibility, and it also allows for a second set of eyes on your legal work.
And where can the residents of Laguna Beach find the numbers on how much is being spent on outside defense of litigation? It's not clear cut
That's a good question. I think that would be probably
because I think everyone would like to know how much money are we spending on
well, I think
litigation?
that's an interesting idea that maybe we could have an annual report where we bring that back, and we with the goal of thinking about,
Because it's about transparency,
well,
Alex.
and
And that's
there's,
why I started this
yeah,
podcast. Everyone thinks I started this because I'm pissed off about Temple Hills land. No, I'm 2 decades pissed off. And I finally am now like, I'm going to do
yeah,
something because there are other people
yeah, who share that.
who share those same views and those opinions and been bullied and all the other things. So why not have transparency?
Yeah,
How much money are we spending defending the actions of the city?
I think that that's a fair point. I think there's some things that it's important that it's discussed in closed session, because we always have to put the city's interest first, right? We're not going to talk about legal cases in open session because, the Brown Act provides for the idea that it's like when you're talking about your legal strategy with your team, you're not doing that in public, right? You don't want the other side to know what you're saying, what
Right.
your legal strategy is, right? And so that same logic would apply, but I don't think there's a reason why we shouldn't be looking at our I mean, at what we're spending on cases. And I think as a perfect example, when we were talking about that ADU issue in North Laguna, we were very transparent about we lost with $2.8 million on a case that had a set of facts that were not indistinguishable from the one before us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that was the basis for why we made the smart decision in
Right.
that case. It wasn't the popular decision.
No.
Right. But that is our job as council members, is not just to get reelected, but to really to put the city's interests first. And that's why maybe having that data available, maybe it's an annual report where we're talking through
Because I
it.
feel like the residents have the right to know.
Well, they absolutely have a right to
Yeah.
know, but
And you have, is there, are you saying that you currently don't know where those numbers are buried in the budget or in the
they're
actual
in the
annual?
budget, and and we get a report in closed session on it. And there's but I think there's probably a way that we could, and someone could easily do a public records act request and they could get that information. But
Mhm.
I'm not trying to suggest that should be the way to have so we would provide that data if someone requested it. But I think what you're alluding to is more of just
Transparency.
yeah, in a way that's like in a productive manner where we could maybe have an annual report on litigation and kind of
Yeah.
talk through the different
Because we're
issues.
all not naive to the fact that in general business, private and public, there are lawsuits.
Yeah.
But then there are lawsuits that could have been
Yeah.
prevented.
And especially when you're a city, like people will
Yeah.
like sue you for anything,
Hmm.
right? And so, and that's why, when we're talking about sidewalks, like to me, we should just have world-class sidewalks, which is good for the residents. But then you think about how much money we save on lawsuits related to sidewalks and trip and falls.
Right.
I'd rather put money in actually improving the infrastructure for our residents
Right.
than having to pay legal teams and settle with people who trip.
Right. No, I agree with you. Um, and so do you think that the legal expansion was about protecting the city or protecting city council members' decisions?
It was all about protecting the city.
And what about city council members' decisions when they don't vote with the law? I mean, that does turn
Well,
into
but I think
legal
that,
payouts,
yeah,
litigation, costs for both parties, because it's
but
not cheap for the residents to go through a
no,
lawsuit.
it's not good for anyone.
No.
I think that the goal is how do we, like the sidewalk example, like when we're talking about different, um, you know, potential land use issues where it could turn into litigation if we make the
Mhm.
wrong illegal decision. I think our goal is how do we invest that money onto the front end to mitigate these to avoid litigation. Litigation is something that we never want to be involved with it, to the extent that we can. And so that's the basis, not based on defending illegal decisions.
I really appreciate the open conversation that we've had and you being very transparent. And I like the fact that we can debate and go
Yeah.
back and forth on things. And I invite you to come back and we could talk more
Okay.
about the efficiency ordinance and the land trust and, picking and choosing which code enforcements are, worth going after and which ones are
Yeah,
not. At the end of the day, we're all here for a better Laguna.
absolutely.
And I do wish that you were still the mayor. I think you did a lot of great things and you were a good voice and you were a good communicator. Um, I'm hoping Mark can do the same. He just
I
got
think he will.
he just got what the title what last week
Yeah,
or the
last
week
week, I
or the
think,
week
or week
before.
before, yeah.
But I really would like to see more accountability and more transparency from all of the city council
Yeah.
members. And I think that you're leading the charge on that, and I hope they follow suit. And I
Well, I appreciate
appreciate
you
you
saying
coming
that.
out
Well,
here.
and I think at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes I'm in a world where people don't disagree with me, where they just are like telling me how great I am or
I
complimenting
won't
me.
tell you how great you
And
are.
so I think that as like public officials, I never want to be one of those people who's in public office who's just doesn't like being disagreed with because none of us have all the solutions, right? And we all, whenever I have disagreements with someone, sometimes it just affirms why my decision is the right one, right? And that could be a good thing, or I learn something from it and I make a better decision next time. And so I appreciate the transparent and the fact-based criticism because I think that's how we all become better public servants.
And I agree with you. And I wish that all the city council members had that same attitude
I think
because, a lot of them won't meet with me or
okay.
Chris and they don't want to debate it. And, or when I have met with them, I did meet with someone and all they kept saying, I respectfully agree to disagree. And I'm like, well, that's not going to get us anywhere. If you respectfully agree to disagree, like we need to come to an understanding of both sides. Don't just tell me that you don't agree. Tell me why you don't agree
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why I don't agree. And I think that if people can have more open, honest conversations with council members, I think change can happen. But I also do think that the seats need to turn over and more people like you need to be elected.
Well, I appreciate the time, and again, I think I agree with you. I think you always have to show your math. Like when you in math classes, you can't just write the answer, right?
Right.
You have to show your math of how you get there, and I think that's in public policy. We should do the same.
Yeah, I agree.
Explain here's my decision, but how did I get to that decision? I think that makes more transparent government, and it also just creates it's better civil dialogue, in my opinion.
Agree. Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Alex.
your
I
time. This was
appreciate
great.
it.
I enjoyed it.
Me too.